See that down there? That's my little girl. See? It's pretty awesome. I haven't seen her in about a year and a half, and now she's here. Now I'm still working. I got things to do, so I've been doing stuff and making this place, trying to make it look pretty. It's a bit of a mess, but that's okay. So here I am, got my daughter here, and I'm working like a dog. And it's kind of funny how what's going on inside. See, my daughter lives in Winnipeg, and I haven't seen her for a year and a half, and I know that my daughter loves me, and I know that no matter what, she's going to care about me and whatever, but distance feels different. Now, I'm doing my job and I'm doing everything, but I feel different about my daughter because she's closer to me. And the closer she is to me, the more I am aware of her presence. And the more I'm aware about how much she loves me and how much she cares about me because she's there. All I got to do is look out the window and there she is down on the dock. See, a lot of times we say we don't feel God. A lot of times we say, I don't get this sense of God's presence. And this is what I think. A lot of times we don't get a sense of God's presence because we're not close to God. I mean, God says, I'll never leave you nor forsake thee. He said, in him we live, we move, we have our being. God's always there, but we have a tendency to get so busy in our lives and get caught up with all the things that need to be done in our life and yada, 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 that we have a tendency sometimes to walk away from the reality of God's presence. We don't walk away from God, but we walk away from the reality of his presence. And we begin to live our lives just as we just live our lives. And we forget that God is there. And we don't feel him because we've just regulated him to this distant place in our life, a distant room, a distant closet, a different whatever. But he's in our lives, but we're not living in the reality of his presence. The Bible says this, it says pray without ceasing. What does that mean? Pray without ceasing is always being in an attitude of prayer. It doesn't mean we're always on our knees. That would be counterintuitive to what God calls us to do, because he calls us to get off our knees and go out and love people. And he said, pray that he said, look, the fields are white unto harvest. Pray the Lord of the harvest will send workers. So they prayed, and what happened? They went down, and they were the workers in the harvest. So, God calls us to get off our knees and get moving, but always be in an attitude of prayer. And what is that attitude of prayer? That attitude of prayer is a constant recognition that God is present in our lives, that we turn and that he's there, and that every aspect of what we're doing, he sees and he experiences with us. It's in that attitude of prayer, in that attitude of recognition of God's presence, in that attitude of communion, in that attitude, that's where we sense God, and that's where we feel God, and that's where we know God. So, Madison's sitting up there, I'm still working, but I feel her presence because she's near. And I brought her near. I paid for her to get here. We need to do the work to remember that we're drawing nigh to God. It says, draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Okay? Attitude of prayer, just constantly in that awareness, God's presence, constantly awareness that God is speaking to us and we need to speak to him. All right. Hope that's been an encouragement to you. God bless you.